Joining us, Democratic Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. He's also a member of Foreign Relations and the Judiciary Committee. Senator, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Katie. It's good to be on.
So your colleague is calling on you and others to refuse to fund DHS unless those new rules are put in place for ICE and immigration enforcement. Do you agree?
Look, for me personally, I can't in good conscience support an agency that is so out of control. We see already they've had multiple shooting incidences in which we have not got good justification or even investigation. You've seen them arrest or detain unlawfully over 170 Americans, which is stunning. If you're an American walking down the street, you can be grabbed by masked agents, dragged into an unmarked car, and disappeared from your family with no explanation or no accountability. We've been asking for answers from them for a long time on very basic things that any law enforcement agency should have, and they have been even unwilling to even answer or give us responses to legitimate questions about their operations. So I cannot support their funding. They're resisting the checks and balances and accountability of the United States Congress, and to me, they're creating conditions in which very dangerous, unacceptable, and unconstitutional things are happening in our country.
There are some out there who are arguing that what we're seeing on the streets across this country, especially over the last week in Minneapolis, justifies Democrats shutting down the government over withholding this funding from DHS unless reforms are initiated, unless new rules and requirements are put in place. Would you feel comfortable shutting down the government over this issue?
Look, I think the real problem we have in this country right now is a dysfunctioning Congress. What we are starting to see is cracks in that. And what I mean is Democrats need Republicans to join with us in using our power of oversight, accountability, and checks and balances. And so I'm very happy to start seeing more and more Republicans. We have 5 on this war powers resolution recently that are beginning to break with the president, saying that this president is out of control and reckless. He is cruel and corrupt. And so whether it's the war powers resolution that you've seen, his recent attacks on the Fed, doing something that we have never seen any president from any party do, is attacking the independence of that agency like he is, using and misusing the powers of the Justice Department to investigate his political enemies. We have got to continue to build momentum in this country to stop Republicans from bending over backwards and doing whatever Donald Trump says. One party is not going to fix this. Patriots of good conscience who say this is unacceptable under any president have to begin to stand up. And I'm working across the aisle to try to pull more people back to sanity.
So on that question, again, on the shutting down the government over this question, are you telling me that you believe you have Republicans who would join you to force new accountability rules so that shutting down the government wouldn't have to be an option?
So we could say things like shutting down the government. We saw what happened. We had the longest government shutdown in the world. Democrats could not hold together to sustain that kind of pressure. What I am saying right now is we, the people, because the power of the people is greater than the people in the power, more people are going to have to put pressure on Republicans who are getting closer and closer to their reelections. Start putting pressure on them and saying, if you are not accountable to the people, we'll get new people and replace you. And that is starting to have an effect. So I'm looking for effective means with which to dislodge Donald Trump's voodoo or whatever control he has over the Republican Party, in which people sworn an oath to the Constitution are in many ways betraying that oath and not even allowing the independent branch of government, that is the executive, to do their job. And the consequences of that, we are seeing how dangerous that is. Let's take ICE again as an example. They have diminished their standards dramatically under Donald Trump. Their training has gone from 5 months to 47 days. Their standards for hiring, whether it's educational standards or even age, have gone way, way down. I've been pushing now for months for us to have body cameras, for us to have an act I did with Padilla called the Visible Act, where they cannot hide their identities and even their insignias. All of this is good legislation and good steps to call for these things. But unless we get Republicans to join us, we're not going to see the kind of progress we need.
So it sounds like what you're saying to me is that ultimately the Democrats are the minority party and they only have so much power that you don't think it's a good idea to shut down the government over one issue, but that rather this has got to go back to the American public, and the American public has to be the ones to put pressure on these individual lawmakers to come to the table, that ultimately you can only do so much, that the American public needs to get more forcefully involved here.
Yeah, this is a test of our democracy. And everything in our country that we have seen in moments like this has been people standing up and saying enough is enough. There was a time we didn't have the votes for civil rights legislation or for suffrage legislation or even some of the key labor laws that we now take for granted. All of those things, those changes, did not come from Washington, it came to Washington. And so here we are in a constitutional crisis. We're seeing a president violate the Constitution to do his adventurism in his engagements. He seems to be more concerned with running Venezuela than he is as he's ruining this country's economy. You see him overstepping and using the Justice Department to investigate and really bring suits against people that are members of Congress. You're seeing him do so many things that are above and beyond the bounds of the Constitution. And they cannot be checked right now if this body is not doing its job. And this body will continue to not do its job until more of us begin to fight and demand that they do. And this is not a left or right issue. This is a right or wrong issue. And I respect those Republican and conservative voices that have become very loud in 2026 already on saying this president is exceeding his authority in a very dangerous way, that is risking our economy, that's driving up costs, that's creating reckless impact on our economy. We have got to get that pressure risen. More of us have got to speak up.
Yeah, I know. We've heard about it from Republicans on the War Powers Act. We've heard about it from Republicans on Jerome Powell, notably, Leader Thune and also Thom Tillis. We haven't heard it so much from Republicans on immigration and what's happening on the streets of this country. So we'll wait to see if that changes. Senator Cory Booker, really, really good to have you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you, Katie. I appreciate the opportunity to be on.